Roast your coffee gently with those beans. Merrily, merrily, merrily roast. Coffee is more than caffeine. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Merrily Roasting with me, Francis Peck. Let's get into singing and roasting. What I'm discussing today purely focused on roasting, but I'm going back to my Genie Café and comparing it in some sense with the Alio bullets. So really the advantage of an Alio is being able to roast 1 kilogram even on the first generation 1200 grams, 1.2 kilograms, although the cooling down becomes problematic at 1.2 with that first generation. Now there's great news out, that's that the R2, so the R2 and R2 Pro are now certified for the European market. This is the day I have been waiting for basically, because I didn't buy one yet. I didn't even buy this R1 unit. This is from my friend and partner in professional way, because we basically roast together on his machine here in my garage, Dr. B. So that was my great fortune that I met him, that we started roasting together, and that I didn't have to invest what was, plus 3,000 euros back in the day. Of course, the R2, the Pro, which I'm interested in, because there you can really roast that 1.2 kilogram and cool it properly. That one is now going, 5,000 plus. I think something around 5,500. But I'm still feeling a little bit anxious. It took a very long time to get certified, and then you're wondering why. And second of all, it's it is the next step of this model, and I can now say I really know this machine intimately from both sides, and the problems I face with it. And the easy thing is having that, for the air filter, that is easily cleaned with the high pressure thing, as I showed in the last episode. But then you have the rotation of the machine, and that was having a problem. I was roasting 10 kilograms for the Dumont chocolate shop in Bruges, where you can now again find my coffees, just like the bags over here, let's say, but custom made for the chocolate shop there. It has some nice Colombian and Brazilian coffees available there, just as a side note. Now, of course, I had to roast those 10 kilograms, and then at kilogram 9, it break down. It wasn't able to rotate anymore. So then either some debris got blocking the roasting chamber, or the elastic that keeps turning it around is getting too either slippery, or it wasn't doing its job anymore. So I was still having to roast 2 kilograms, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to fix it by doing the maintenance. So I went back to my Genie Café, and I did it actually in sets of 300 grams. So ideally I roast with 250 grams on a Genie Café, but it is able to do up to 300 grams actually, and this way, I got close to 1 kilogram in 3 goes. So I kept doing that, and of course I had a batch that was on the machine here, and some of those beans got scorched. So the whole problem then was what to do with that kilogram that was, it didn't really get to the yellowing stage or anything like that, but it was, some of the beans were kind of scorched. And so I roasted those at the end, not for the shop, but I have them now here. That's my house blend, so I'm using the less ideal coffee for the house blend. The advantage is you can actually come and enjoy a cup for just €1. So €1 for a black coffee. And I mean, I'm not making a cappuccino for €1, but you can have either an espresso, like I'm making now. You could have a lungo, which is also the option here. And if you want to add some milk, you know, help yourself. It's just for €1. So come over. Now, I did 2 batches like that, 300 grams. And then I was getting, you could say, curious what will happen with the last batch, which was around 380 grams. So I put the 380 grams, full aware that, you know, we shouldn't go beyond 300 grams on a Genie Café. But, you know, you kind of want to test it at some point. So what we see here is the results. It's you get a very uneven roast, and it gets, you know, you get a lot of, you know, some beans just start burning up. Let's have a taste of my blend. So this blend doesn't just include the re-roast of those partially scorched. I mean, it wasn't that bad. Now it sounds like undrinkable. This is just an intense roast for just €1. What a sweet deal. You know, if you close your eyes, you feel like you're in Italy. It's just perfect. So come by and taste it for yourself. And there's still chocolate available from the video the other time when we did the chocolate coffee pairing. Now, what I did learn from this whole experiment, actually, comparing, you know, of course I wanted to match my Genie Café to the 3 kilograms, because there was 5 kilograms Colombia that finished perfectly, and then there was the 5 kilograms of the Brazil that I was working on, where the alio broke down. So I wanted to match. So when you want to match, again, density is king, not just the color. But the color is influenced by the machine, by the temperature and all those settings. That's how it gets confusing. And for a big part, by the time that it's taken to roasting it. Now that was the interesting thing. I always figured that the Genie Café needs more time to get the density down, like you would be able to get it on an alio. So with the alio I was around 12 minutes for a full roast. So I was starting out with 14 minutes on the Genie Café. And with the alio, my density was around 90 grams per 250 milliliters. This is with the Nutella jar measurement method that I also discuss in other videos. So I wanted to match this 90 grams, but I ended up, you know, around 82 grams per 250 milliliter. So I was like, oh, I do need to reduce the time. And actually, when I then had it at 12 minutes, now take into account that this is serial roasting, so the machine is getting hotter and that is also impacting it. Then around 12 minutes, so around the same time, I got around, again, 90 grams per 250 milliliters. So actually, the time that it's spending, it will impact the color, but basically if you get it, I would think, a minimum temperature for your roasting, it doesn't matter whether it's on a Genie Café or an alio bullet. This popped my mind a little bit. So there's still a lot of experimenting I need to do, you know, but every new day trying to roast coffee for people is, you know, a day that I get to learn things as well. For example, definitely don't put 380 grams in Genie Café. Stick to the 300 grams max. And that turned out fine. You know, I was able to do then short of a kilogram by just 3 roasts instead of 4. So it didn't take too much time to then complete my 10 kilogram order. So that's it for today. I hope you learned something from this as well. Apart from that, I'm maybe not a perfect roastery yet, but my whole setup is let's roast together. If you now go to my website www.212coffees.be, I finally have the interface that you can pick your roast level. So of course you cannot know up front, you know, I want that density, although you can communicate to me, I really want to use it for espresso, and then I know you know, I should aim that the density is between 80 and 90, because I know those just make good espresso shots, just like this one, even though it's a full automatic machine. But you can select the stop color, so you can select which machine, and you know, then I start roasting, and when I hit the color that you like, I stop the roast. And then, you know, for next roast, if it wasn't meeting your expectations, and then we can talk about it, you know, was it too acidic, you weren't able to dial in your espressos that easily, then we work on that. You know, we work together on roasting here in 212 Coffees. So thanks for following this episode. Hope to see you here in the shop or on the next video. Thanks.